So tell me about the game. What is it? What's the best part about it?
All right, so Gigantic is a 5-on-5 PvP action game. We're calling it a shooter MOBA, but it's kind of a blend between multiple different genres. Like, definitely has some MOBA elements to it, in that you pick your hero before the game starts. You're that hero for the whole game. You have your 4 skills, your kind of ultimate-like ability. Games are around 15 to 20 minutes, but the gameplay is very fast-paced.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely a kind of a PvP-centric game.
Mm-hmm.
You spend most of your time fighting against other players.
Fighting for objectives, though, is what I've noticed. It's pretty objective, heavy.
Yeah, so even though it's a PvP game, it's definitely, to win the game, you have to play the objectives. So the main objectives are, each team has a giant boss monster on your team called the Guardian. The main objective of the game is to kill the other team's Guardian before they kill yours. The way you do that is you power up your Guardian by killing other heroes, which are other players. The creatures that the players spawn, they can spawn creatures on certain basically control points throughout the map. You can kill them for extra power, and then collecting the power orbs that spawn at the control points throughout the game. And then basically you're racing to power up your Guardian before they power up theirs. And whoever's Guardian gets powered up first will rampage across the map, which means they go from where they're sitting near their base all the way over to where the other Guardian is. They knock him over, pin him down, and then you have about 20 seconds to go in and do as much damage to their Guardian as you can before it gets back up.
So endgame is to take out Guardian, but there's tons of different ways to actually getting around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so depending on how you're playing, you can definitely go just for player kills and power up your Guardian that way, or you can play the objectives a little more and kind of avoid the players and just go for those creature kills and collecting the orbs. But either way, you're just trying to power up your Guardian however you can before they power up theirs. And then each Guardian has a health bar broken up into 3 chunks, which we call wounds. Mm-hmm. And you take all 3 of those wounds and you win the game.
That's a lot all at once. Now, I did notice when I was playing the game, traditionally, if you would play MOBAs, you maybe have 1, 2, 3, 4 buttons that you would be working for skills and abilities. And I feel like when I was playing this game, there was a lot of different buttons for me to push. There was tons of different skills. They were able to be leveled up a couple of different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say basic, but there's tons of different ways that a player can really dive into their champion.
Yeah. So, unlike traditional MOBA, there's no kind of item shop or anything like that. All of it's done through upgrading your hero directly. So you start out at level 1, the maximum level is 10. Each level you get a skill upgrade point to spend. And the way that works is, you have your 4 basic skills and then your ultimate ability, which is called the focus ability. So you have kind of your 5 main abilities, but each one of those can be upgraded in multiple different ways. So you decide to upgrade a specific skill, and it branches into 2 different options. And those options aren't just make the skill a little better. They can change kind of how the skill works fundamentally.
Right.
So some of them are more straightforward statistical bonuses, and some of them are okay, now this skill is, instead of an offensive skill, it's more of a defensive skill.
Play accordingly to how you're getting.
Exactly. So you have some opportunities to advance or adapt your build based on how the game is going. Or you can just say okay, here's my build that I've picked out before the game. I'm going to try this out and see how it works. So it kind of puts it in the hands of the players as far as how they want to build their hero.
Okay, so definitely you can, readjust accordingly depending on how the enemy team reacts to you, or you can just try out new builds and go accordingly. So you can always try and get yourself not just on the map as well, but in your hero and your champion, readjust accordingly and try and come back for that game, come back for that win. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of champions, I notice you have a pretty large roster, and everyone's a little different. You don't have basic classes tank support. It's there's a good mixture of what these heroes do.
Right. Yeah. So we have our roster is 16 heroes right now. We will be adding to that as we go. But yeah, like you said, it's a good mix of like some characters are melee only characters. There are some characters that play more like a standard shooter character. We have a hero that's like, for example, sniper. Who plays like a traditional sniper, like you would expect, and then we also have the other end of the spectrum, where we have just like big, beefy tank characters who have no ranged abilities at all. And then we also have, like, in addition to just like the shooter and the melee heroes, we also have some heroes that play a little different. Like there are heroes that summon like a pet that fights for you, so they play a little bit more like a pet class in an MMO. We have some characters that are, not so much about the aiming, that are more about like how you rotate your skills. They play a little bit more like an RPG character. So we try to represent a bunch of different play styles in our heroes.
I did notice that, like when we were going through the demo and everyone was like, tell me, what do you usually play? Like, are you an MMO player? Are you an FPS player? Like, what are you? What's your MO? Like, what's your play style? So like your champions aren't really just geared towards your specific game. It's actually geared towards like your players that are coming into play, like what's most suited for your audience as they come in, picking and rotating their champion.
Yeah, and that was definitely an intentional choice that we made early on, is to try to represent those different genres, those different play styles in the heroes. And what we found, kind of as we expected, but even more so, is how important it is for players to find a hero that they resonate with, that fits their style. So that's kind of one of the challenges that we're trying to not necessarily overcome, but like since we recognize how important that is, we're trying to do as much as we can to get players in the direction of the hero that suits them as fast as they can, so they can see.
Makes the game easier to pick up and play.
Exactly, and then once they're familiar with one, maybe they can branch out a little bit more. But it does help to have that like anchor point of like, oh yes, I know how to play this hero.
Right,
and
eases
then go
into
from
the
there.
water.
Yeah,
be like, this is what I do. This is not a problem.
Exactly.
So you can always do that. Now, what I did notice too when we were picking heroes is you don't switch out your champions. You stick to primarily just the one. That explains why you have the different tree branches.
Yeah.
So you can adjust accordingly into that.
Yeah. So you do play the same hero each game. Of course, you can switch. Like the next game, you can play something different. But the games are a little on the shorter side compared to like a traditional MOBA. They are generally around 15 to 20 minute range. They can be a little longer, a little shorter, depending on the game, on how the game is going. But that's about the time range you're looking at. So it gives you just enough of a chance to kind of get a feel for your hero, the way the game's going, and kind of hit that end game and get a chance to play with the fully upgraded hero. And then the game ends, and then you can either try that hero again with a completely different build the next time, or you can try a different hero.
And then just one last question to wrap it up. When you were developing the game, what were you primarily concerned with designing? Were you just wanting to do a MOBA strictly, or doing something like forging something completely new, or were you concerned about an audience?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're calling it a shooter MOBA, but really we didn't start out trying to make a MOBA and then say like, okay, our game is a MOBA, now what do we want to make different about it? It was more, we started out as like, hey, we just want to make a great competitive PvP game. And it just so happens that it has enough elements to it that it's like, it kind of fits the MOBA mold, multiplayer online battle arena, pretty generic term, so it's hard to say that it's not that, and so we don't try. But we feel like what we're trying to achieve is something that's approachable, that's accessible, and that's fun, and has a lot of depth to it as well. Because it's one thing for the game to be easy to pick up and play, but if it doesn't have that staying power, that depth that you want to keep learning about it, keep getting better at it, then it doesn't quite have that stickiness. So we kind of want to hit both ends of the spectrum there. Something that you look at and you're like, yes, I want to play it. You play it, you're like, okay, I know how to play this, and then you realize, oh, there's a lot more to this.
So high replay value. We really want a community build around this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a free-to-play title, so definitely we need people to keep coming back for more and more.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot.